how big is the difference in battery life between the Galaxy Watch 9 in 40 and in 44 millimeters. That is exactly what I tested with both Bluetooth models. I used two different scenarios. In the first test, the always-on display was enabled, brightness was set to maximum, and all sensors and health features were turned on. The always-on display also stayed active during my roughly 1 hour GPS workout. In the second test, the always-on display was completely disabled and automatic brightness was enabled instead. The sensors and health features stayed active and the always-on display also remained off during the GPS workout. Now, if you're planning to buy one of these Galaxy Watch 9 models, you can find my affiliate links down below in the video description. Using those links supports the channel at no extra cost for you. I've also included all of my measurements from both battery tests and the charging test in the description, so you can check all of the results again for yourself. So both watches started at 11 AM with 100% battery. At 6:15 PM, the 40mm version still had 78% remaining, while the bigger version was at 81%. After that, I recorded a GPS workout for around 1 hour with both watches. During the first run, the always display also stayed enabled throughout the workout. After the workout, the smaller version was at 73%, meaning it had used 5 percentage points. The bigger version was also at 73%, so it used 8 percentage points. I would not draw any general conclusions from a single GPS workout though, because GPS reception, display usage, and background processes can all slightly affect battery drain. Shortly before going to sleep at 11:20 PM, the smaller version was at 59%, and at 7:10 in the morning, it was down to 38%. So it used 21 percentage points overnight. The bigger version was at 63% before sleep and 47% the next morning, meaning it used 16 percentage points overnight. After exactly 24 hours, the smaller Galaxy Watch 9 still had 25% battery remaining, while the larger version had 37% left. That means the 40mm version used 75% of its battery in one day. If we linearly extrapolate that to 0%, we get a total battery life of around 32 hours. The bigger version used 63% in the same 24-hour period, which gives us a calculated battery life of around 38 hours and 6 minutes. Of course, this is only an estimate because battery drain is not perfectly linear, but it is still a useful way to directly compare both sizes. So for the second run, I fully charged both watches again. This time, the always-on display was turned off and I used automatic brightness instead of maximum brightness. All other sensors and health features stayed enabled. Both watches started at 5:30 PM with 100% battery. Shortly before going to sleep at 12:40 AM, the 40mm version still had 83% remaining, while the bigger version had 85%. At 8 AM in the morning, the values were 72 and 73% respectively. At 4:30 PM, shortly before the GPS test, the smaller watch still had 41% battery and the larger version had 46%. I then recorded another GPS workout for around 1 hour, but this time without the always-on display. After the workout, the 40mm version was at 35%, while the 44mm version was at 42%. So during the workout, they used 6 and 4 percentage points respectively. In the first run, they had used 5 and 8 percentage points. The bigger model therefore used noticeably less battery during the second GPS test, while the smaller version did not. Since this is only one GPS workout per scenario, I would not claim that the difference was definitely caused by the always-on display. The more important number is the full 24-hour result. After exactly 1 day, the 40mm version still had 35% battery remaining, meaning it has used 65%. Linearly extrapolated, they give us a total runtime of around 36 hours and 55 minutes, so roughly 37 hours. The 44mm version still had 42% remaining after 24 hours, meaning it had used 58%. They give us a calculated battery life of around 41 hours and 23 minutes. So without the always-on display and with automatic brightness, we ended up at around 37 hours for the smaller Galaxy Watch 9 and little over 41 hours for the larger version. If we directly compare both scenarios, the 40mm version increases from around 32 hours with the always-on display and maximum brightness to around 37 hours without the always-on display and with automatic brightness. That is an improvement of roughly 5 hours. On the 44mm version, the calculated battery life increased from around 38 hours to little over 41 hours, so by just over 3 hours. It is important to remember that I did not only change the always on display. In the first test, brightness was permanently set to maximum, while in the second test, automatic brightness was enabled. So this is really more of a comparison between a very demanding display setup and a more power efficient everyday setup. Finally, I also measured charging time. Now, on the 40mm version, I started charging at 2%. After 1 hour, it had reached 45%, after 2 hours, 80%, and after 150 minutes, 95%. The watch reached 100% after a total of 164 minutes. Since I started at 2% instead of 0, a linear estimate for a full 0 to 100% charge would be around 167 minutes, or 2 hours and 47 minutes. On the 44mm version, charging started at 21%. After 1 hour, it had reached 58, after 2 hours, 94, and after a total of 130 minutes, it was fully charged. Linear extrapolated to a complete 0 to 100% charge, that would be around 165 minutes, or 2 hours and 45 minutes. So both models ended up almost identical in this calculation. However, especially when it comes to charging, this should only be seen as a rough estimate because charging speed is not constant and normally slows down as the battery gets closer to 100%. For a full charge, I would roughly plan around 2 hours and 45 minutes to just under 3 hours for both models. So the 44mm version clearly lasts longer in both of my tests and gives you roughly 4.5 to 6 additional hours of battery life depending on the settings. With the always on display enabled, I get a calculated runtime of around 32 hours on the 40mm model and 38 hours on the bigger model. Without the always on display, those numbers increase to around 37 and 41 hours. So if battery life is an important factor in your decision, the 44mm version clearly has the advantage.